Good morning, guys at home. If you haven't done so already, you could just let me know in the chat if you are here. I'll mark you present on my attendance. Baby barfed on my glasses. Just remember, if you are in cohort A and you haven't made an official arrangement with the office and you are not here, that somebody needs to call in, just so you know. And if you are planning on doing it long term and you haven't made an arrangement, you can contact guidance and make a more long-term arrangement to stay at home. That's totally fine, but you do need to call somebody. Good morning. Okay, let's get started. So we are heading into the, is this gonna work? Would you mind hitting the light on this side? I think it's the far switch. Perfect. We are heading into our body systems unit, or it's really about animal systems. Most of the animal system stuff that we're going to talk about is mammal specific, although you can extrapolate a lot of this stuff to other organisms. But for example, like we're going to discuss the digestive system today. It's fairly focused on the mammalian digestive system, and the purpose of that being it's an examination of your own digestive system, right? I mean, you're probably not going to care too much about like what proteins and like what enzymes are responsible in digesting food in a Gila monster or something like that. Like we generally care more about that from a human perspective. So the curriculum is actually pretty vague on that. It doesn't really focus in on humans, but I've made it more human specific just for interest's sake. So, and it is, like I said, it's expandable to mammals in general for sure. So if you're interested in, being a veterinarian or something like that, this is expandable to probably most of your practice. From the previous unit. So we finished the genetics processes unit. The project is technically due at midnight. I can't, that's the Meiosis Live project. There's no way I'm going to be able to mark it for your Wednesday reports anyway. So if you need to take until Tuesday at midnight or something like that, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to put you behind or anything if you're a day late on that. So some people have emailed me and asked about that. It's not a huge deal. So don't worry about it too much. The deadlines at this point in the course are more to help keep you on track. So like if you push that 3 days, all of a sudden it's going to start overlapping with the assignments from this unit. And then once you start doing that, then it really, really quickly is going to like bury you because there's so much stuff. So try not to push them, but realistically, it's not a huge deal. The last week is a little, like I said, is a little bit more, there's like more of a sharp deadline because I have to market it the same day and then make your report cards literally the next day. So it's a little bit tighter turnaround, but at this point, it's not a huge deal if it's like a day or two late. Your midterm reports will go home today or tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest. And it's just like a really simple summary of how you're doing so far. And I don't have a lot of data for it. Question? Is it just like an email? It's an email, yeah. You and your parents, yeah, you're both, your parents are CC'd on it, but it's you and your parents, yeah. And all it is like, are you attending digitally or in person? How have you done on the summative pieces that you've completed so far? So it's like a tentative mark. And that's basically all I've got, okay? Because it's pretty early still, technically. I haven't been able to evaluate the stuff from the second unit yet at that point, so I don't have a ton of data. I've already mentioned this, but if your mark is super high, great. I mean, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. That's obviously what most people are shooting for. But it is only one unit, so just keep that in mind. And if your mark is super low, also keep in mind that it's only one unit. Like people have also contacted me and said, like, I have a 55 or I have a whatever. It's like, am I going to fail? No, you've only done one unit. That's only one unit. So there's just lots of other content left. If you're concerned, like there's lots of ways that you can still improve your mark by the end. Like I had students last quad that after the first unit, their mark was like a 58, and then at the end their mark was an 85. Like that happens, especially last quad where people had never done this before. And yeah, this is a challenging way to learn stuff, like no doubt it is. And so, there was an adjustment period, which is totally fine. And some of you guys may still be working through that, but like there's opportunity to improve, obviously, like a ton still this quad. So don't get locked into that thinking if you're super concerned. It's just not true. So it's very early. But just when you get that report, yeah, keep in mind it's early and it's like a rudimentary. I'm not providing like a detailed commentary on you. I hardly even know some of you. So anyway, that's where it's at. Assignments from the second unit. I mentioned the Meiosis Live. If you're done the vocabulary list, you should submit it now. The idea with the vocabulary list is always that you just complete it throughout the unit. So like every time at the end of the day in learning block 3, it's like, all right, well, what new words did I come across today that I was unfamiliar with? Boom, 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 boom. You had 5, 6 every day. And then at the end, you're done. That's it. It's not really meant to be something you do at the end. It's sort of like a cumulative thing to help you keep track of the vocabulary. So ideally, you're all done now. If you are, just submit. Like literally right now, push the button. So, or if you haven't already. So I still need it from like a whole bunch of people. So if you're in that boat, just send it in. And then lastly, the quiz. I think I have 6-ish people that still need to write it. Not a huge number, but you should write the quiz. Question about the quiz.
Oh, it's not about the quiz.
Oh, but
the homework. Like, where do we submit that?
Okay, so initially I was going to collect that before the midterm as part of a portfolio. I am still going to collect it all. So you should have one document, like a Google Doc where you're keeping your questions from each unit, and I am going to collect it at the end of the quad as part of a portfolio. So you're going to be handing in 5 documents, 1 document for your questions for each one, and I'm going to go through and review that. The school's been like a little cagey on how they want like course summative stuff to work. They don't want an exam, and they don't want a summative project due at the end. So I can't call it a summative project. Let's say like it's going to help me evaluate your learning skills. Okay, so that's what it is basically. And so I am going to collect that in the final week of the course, which is, I can look it up for you if you're curious. But you're doing it as you go along. Like it shouldn't be something that you like arrive at the end and be like, I have to do all the questions from the course. There's no chance. So ideally it would be done right away and you would just hand in what you have. But it would be coming in the week of January 25th here. So like right at the end. Okay. So, which is, fairly far away. Okay. So that's all the stuff from the previous unit. Just whenever you can get that stuff in as soon as possible. And that in. We're going to, like I said, be heading into this animal structure and function unit. Keep in mind that that is the focus of the unit. Here are the structures of mammals mostly, and what do they do? What is the function of those structures? You did this in grade 10, but like mini version. This is like the cells, organs, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems unit that you do in grade 10. You guys remember that, hopefully, a little bit at least. So, but in that one, you're talking about like the general organizational structure of living things. It's starting at the very smallest all the way up until like the macro structure, organ systems. In this unit, we're only going to be focusing on the macro. So forget about the micro. We're not going to talk about organelles or anything. And we're just going to focus on 3 key systems in mammals: digestion, respiration, and circulation. Okay, and then towards the end, we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about homeostasis and how some of the systems interact with each other. But it's a deep dive on those 3 systems. By the end, hopefully, you'll have a fairly good understanding of your own digestive, respiratory, and circulatory systems. I don't want to call them the key systems. All 11 body systems are important. But these ones are, in general, have a particular importance, and they're fairly straightforward in terms of their function. I mean, not totally straightforward, but they are fairly straightforward in terms of their function, as opposed to the nervous system or something like that, which is like a hyper complex system, which you talk about a little bit in grade 12, but we don't do it in grade 11. So like I said, we cover these 3 systems. Then if you take grade 12 bio, which I highly recommend, you're going to get into the excretory system, like the kidneys and like how that removes waste products. You're going to talk about the nervous system. So you get into a little bit more sort of complex system management stuff. But like I said, this is just 3 units. There is a note package here. I believe it's broken into 3 parts. So this is part 1. They should all be visible to you at this point. And part 1 is focused just on digestion. There is a new assignment there. That's the animal structure and function vocab list. You'll get lots of vocabulary in this unit, so you won't be short on vocabulary. I pre-recorded the lessons for today, so and hopefully that'll give me time to do your reports and send them out. So the first part here is a little lesson on macromolecules. This is what your stuff is made out of on the molecular level. Okay, there are 3, 4 key components: macromolecules, large molecules. I guess water's not really a macromolecule, but large molecules that are primarily compose all of your physiology. Okay, we talked about the idea of protein already. I'm not obviously going to talk about every different type of protein, but proteins in general. Okay, so proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Those are the 3 macromolecules that primarily make up all of your cell parts. Okay, and so this video goes into a little bit more detail. What is their general structure like, and what are they used for in the body? So the reason that we start with this is because this is sort of like the beginning of an understanding towards digestion. Because digestion is all about getting these. So I'm just going to start off by saying, well, what are these? What are the things that you need in order to build the stuff in your body? What's the stuff made out of? And most of these come as units, where the smallest unit, that is essentially 1 molecule, that would be like a single sugar molecule, a monosaccharide, it's called, or a single protein molecule, which you guys already know is called an amino acid, right? And then you build them, they are built into macro structures, larger structures, by linking them together. So this video also goes into, what is it called when you have a whole bunch of these stuck together? That's usually the format where you eat it, right? You're eating big things that are a whole bunch of stuff stuck together. And then how do you break that down into single molecules, which is what you need to absorb in your digestive system. So that's this thing. This video gives you like a little bit of a start into what's out there. Like, what are you actually trying to get into your body? And then this follow-up little crash course video does a great job of expanding on that a little bit. So it talks a little bit more about the function of some of these macromolecules and their structure. Keep in mind the actual chemical structure of these. I mentioned the shapes that you can see in their chemical structure. You don't really need to know that for grade 11 bio, okay? It's good to know, for example, like that's a sugar. You can look at that and you just know that that's a monosaccharide. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbons, right? And then it's 6-sided. It's a hexagon. There's an oxygen bonded at the top there. It's good for you to know that that's the structure. I'm not going to get you to draw it or write out the formula for it in this course, but it's good to know when you see that that's a sugar molecule, especially for grade 12 bio. In grade 12 bio, you're going to get into the actual like chemistry of that. How is glucose and fructose different? You know, you guys have heard those different sugars, maybe just like looking at the ingredients on stuff. Like they are essentially the same. They both look like that, but why are they not exactly the same? Like that, you get into that in grade 12. Okay, so but this course, you don't, when you're looking at this, if you're like, oh, I don't have to memorize these shapes and stuff, you don't. Okay, this is not for this course, but eventually that is something that you can look into if you're really interested. The last part of this is of the intro here is I'm going to get you to look at in question 2 on page 405 in your text. What that is it basically asking you to look at what have you eaten recently, okay? You're going to just take a quick log of the foods that you've eaten recently and what's in those things. Protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Based on what we discussed, what's in those things that you've just eaten, all right? And then it mentions here, there's actually a reference in your text to the Canada's Food Guide. They updated the Canada's Food Guide last year? Do you guys remember? Or maybe nobody even paid attention to it. It was last year or the year before. Let me just open it up quick here. It's a much better food guide than it was previous. So the original Canada's Food Guide was made in the 1980s, and it was super, super milk heavy, which makes me laugh. There was so much milk products is a food group in the original food guide. Based on what? That is not based on any science whatsoever. So whatever big milk in Canada definitely had some influence on building Canada's original food guide, because there is so much milk products. Like that's like an entire food group. That's not a food group, guys. There's nothing to suggest that a quarter of your diet should be milk products. That's a complete invention. So, but if you look at this, most of this is scientifically derived, okay? It's much broader. And in other words, it allows, okay, stop moving. How do I pause? It does a great job of suggesting, just based on macronutrients, in general, how should you break down your foods, and not a quarter should be milk products or something ridiculous, okay? Which is not based on any science that has to do with nutrition. So it's also much more accepting of people's like traditional diets. If you come here from China, for example, you're not eating a quarter of your diet is milk products. Like that's insane. Like a huge percentage of the population in China is lactose intolerant. Like that doesn't even make sense. So like if you come here, like our food guide is like unusable. This makes a lot more sense. Okay, so there are options here, and they're based on macronutrients, what your body actually requires in order to function properly. Take a look at it. It's really interesting. I mean, a lot of people don't eat this. They also removed the serving requirements. So you guys may have heard of this before. You probably did when you were a kid. You talk like 8 or 9 servings of vegetables, 8 or 9 servings of fruit. Literally no one does that, okay? No one does that. Unless you're like living in like a commune where you like don't have access to modern food. Like literally nobody is doing that. And one of the reasons that they removed that requirement is because what most people do is that they look at it and see, oh, 8 to 9 servings of vegetables. Like I'm nowhere near that. And so they just say, well, I'm not going to use this guide. Like this guide is ridiculous. I can't even get close to this. And so like, why am I even looking at this? And that's pointless. Okay, then the guide is completely useless. And many, many people did that with the guide. So the idea here is that you just look at in general, what portion of my plate is made of which macronutrient, okay? As about a quarter of my diet, this is about a quarter, and that's a lot easier to shoot for, okay? A larger percentage of my plate should be vegetables, Not, I need to have 9 things on this plate that are vegetables. Like, that's ridiculous. No one does that. So, anyway, it's a much better guide. They took 10 years to rejig it, and it came out way better than it was previous. So I highly recommend taking a look at it. So that's part one. That's just looking at what you need to survive. The second part here is a journey through the digestive system, okay? What are the parts? What are the actual physical structures that food passes through as they go from the beginning to the end? You did this in grade 10, so some of this will be review for you. You probably did grade 10, right? You did do this, I'm assuming. So all the structure components you will know. Like you'll look at it and be like, yeah, stomach, I get it. Small intestine, heard of that, right? You'll go through, but this talks a little bit more about the microstructure. What is the surface tissue, the epithelial tissue of the small intestine like? Which enzymes are being produced at each part of the digestive system? What's being broken down? What's being absorbed? That kind of stuff. Okay, so it starts with a little video that is an actual video of food passing through a human digestive system, which is fun. I like this video. Strangely, it shows you from the exterior a baby. I guess they want to make it cute so people will look at it. It is not a baby's digestive system. I find that more disturbing than anything else, that they want us to believe that they put a camera inside a baby to look around. They did not do that. This is an adult's digestive system that you're looking at here. So just so you know, they didn't shove a camera on a string down into a baby. This is an adult consented to this. So this is an adult digestive system. And you can see things like the enzymes just like shooting out of the small intestine out of like the little ducts and stuff. It's really cool. So if you're interested, this is a cool summary. It goes through and actually follows some food through the digestive system. And then the little lesson video goes along with this. This is just going through the anatomy, okay? So in your notes, there's a diagram, looks just like that, where you're gonna label the parts I need you to know for this course. Okay, there's more parts. You can break it down into even smaller sections, but this is what I need you to know for grade 11, okay? So these are the parts I need you to know. Interestingly enough, we just discovered a new salivary gland. I don't have it on this diagram. I don't know if I mentioned it in here that there's 3 salivary glands. There's actually 4. So we just recently discovered that there is like another area of tissue under the soft palate that is an additional salivary gland that we didn't know existed in human anatomy. That was like a month ago. Somebody figured that out, which is cool. There's always new things we're finding out. But this is like going through the anatomy, structure, and function. I talk about a bile video of like what bile looks like when it's actually working. There's a cool YouTube video of that. You can watch that if you want. You don't have to. That's like an additional thing if you want to see that. And then there's some questions from the text about this and a little exit quiz. Okay, so we're gonna shoot for that in block 1. I realize that's a little bit of a stretch. There's a lot of data there. This is gonna overlap probably into block 2 a little bit. Okay, and then the last part here. So this is mostly just structure and function of each of the parts. And I mention the digestive enzymes. This enzyme breaks down this here. This enzyme breaks down this here. It's a lot, okay? There's a lot of enzymes involved. So the second component here for learning block 2 is just an examination of what are the enzymes. Enzymes are proteins, and what they do is aid in chemical reactions, okay? They make chemical reactions go at a greater pace than they would naturally if it was just material sitting in water, okay? It's you guys talk about catalysts in chemistry? Yeah? Catalyst, it changes the rate of a chemical reaction. So enzymes are just catalysts. And they are operating to break down these nutrients. What are the enzymes that are involved and where are they functioning, where they're being produced? There's the summary table in the notes that goes along with this, and you should have a general sense of what these enzymes are and where they're operating. Okay, there's a number of questions about this on the quiz at the end. All right, and then there's a little exit quiz that goes along with that. A lot of stuff there. We're gonna try and do the entire digestive system in one day. Obviously, we would spend a week on this normally. So it is a compressed a touch. I didn't cover everything here that I normally cover in digestion, but this is what we're going to shoot for. Tomorrow, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about some illnesses of the digestive system. We're going to do this with each system. So where are some places where the digestive system breaks down and doesn't function properly? And we're going to do that one together. Any questions about any of the stuff that we're going to cover here before I send you out? Okay, please let me know while you're going through this. If something doesn't make sense to you, let me know, okay? I'm happy to elaborate on anything that's in these lessons. Okay, I'll let you get to it though. I don't wanna take up any more of your time, but definitely let me know if you're stuck. Good luck at home, guys, and let me know if you need anything. The chat will be on the whole time. Okay, for the people at home, if you wouldn't mind just letting me know in the chat if you're here for the second half. If you're in the room, you don't have to do anything. Does anybody in here have any questions from anything from the first little bit? on macromolecules or the anatomy of the digestive. It's fairly straightforward, I guess. Okay. Let me know if you run into any confusion when you get into the enzyme stuff. That part is a little bit more complicated, and just let me know. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, keep letting me know if you're here. Okay, and if anybody comes in late, don't be afraid to just let me know in the chat. Okay, and I'll let you guys pick up where you left off in the pre-recorded lessons, and don't forget to post questions if you have any.